Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Off-Road Update. Round 2 of the 2025 Grand National Cross Country season took place over the weekend in the sunshine of Florida during the annual pilgrimage of Daytona Bike Week. Marked as one of the toughest races of the year, the Wild Boar GNCC throws 3 hours of suffering in the sands at the riders. When it was all said and done, the results of the XC1 class looked much different than they did at the opening round. When the green flag waved to kick off the Wild Boar GNCC, it was the Flat Rock Motor Club Factory Gas Racing's Jordan Ashburn grabbing the whole shot. Following the 2022 champion was Phoenix Racing Honda's Mike Wachowski, Ampro Yamaha's Liam Draper, FMF Factory KTM's Ben Kelly, and Palmer Motorsports Husqvarna-backed Lyndon Snodgrass. Just a few miles into lap 1, however, for the second race in a row, it was the 8-time national champion Caleb Russell emerging with the lead. Behind him came Ashburn with Snodgrass and defending champion Johnny Gerard aboard his FMF Factory KTM in tow. Wachowski ran 5th with Ricky Russell in 6th aboard his Enduro Engineering Triumph. KTM's Ben Kelly was next ahead of Liqui Moly Beta's Josh Strang. Ryder Lafferty ran 9th aboard his Bike On Services Honda, with Stu Baylor hot on his heels aboard his Rocky Mountain Kawasaki. Ampro Yamaha's Liam Draper rounded out the top 10 with Rockstar Husqvarna's Craig DeLong and Racecraft Off-Road Big Hometown KTM's Thad Duvall rounding out the field. Nearing the 10-mile mark, in the front three were Caleb Russell, Jordan Ashburn, and Johnny Gerard as they had started pulling a small gap on the rest of the field. Snodgrass came through in 4th with Ricky Russell moving up to the 5 spot. Kelly had moved up to 6th while Wachowski had been relegated all the way to 7th. Strang and Baylor, Draper rounded out the top 10 while DeLong and Duvall were still behind. Nearing the end of the opening lap, Russell and Gerard had moved ahead and had put time in over Ashburn, who had Snodgrass not far behind his rear wheel, with Ricky Russell closely following. The rest of the top 10 still staying in a tight pack at the completion of lap 1. Five and a half miles into lap 2, and it was still the 8-time champ out front, with the defending champ never allowing a moment to breathe, as their pace had taken them roughly 10 seconds ahead of the field. Ashburn, Snodgrass, Ricky Russell still rounding out the top 5, while the other rider on the move was Baylor after a poor start. Wachowski had regained positions to move into 6th ahead of Kelly. DeLong had moved all the way up to 8th ahead of Strang, while Draper rounded out the top 10 ahead of Duvall. Just past the 11-mile mark at the FMF PowerPoint, it was the number 1 of Gerard emerging with the lead. 5 seconds behind came Caleb Russell, who had to have his knee drained on Saturday due to a midweek training crash. Ashburn and Snodgrass were still locked in a fight for 3rd, while Baylor was still charging and joined them to make it a 3-way battle. None of them could let off, however, as Ricky Russell led the next group that included Wachowski and Kelly. DeLong ran 9th as Strang and Draper were fighting over 10th spot, with the XC2 class leader Grant Davis on their back wheels. Back to the 3-mile mark at the start of lap 3, and Russell had taken the lead back from Gerard, as they had over 30 seconds back to Ashburn at the completion of lap 2. When the rest of the XC1 pack arrived at mile 3, Snodgrass had taken over the 3rd position on track, with Wachowski just behind him in 4th. Ricky Russell still ran 5th, with Ben Kelly up to 6th at the expense of Baylor, while Ashburn had dropped all the way to 8th on track with a clear gap ahead of DeLong and Draper. Near the 11-mile mark again, it was still Russell and Gerard never letting each other out of sight for the first half of the afternoon. Snodgrass, hoping to back up his podium performance at round 1, still ran third with a gap over Kelly and Witkowski rounding out the top 5. Ricky Russell held 6th with Baylor in spot number 7. Ashburn was all alone in 8th while good friends Draper and DeLong were going back and forth over 9th and 10th. After riders had made fuel stops in the pits and met up with our cameras near the 2-mile mark, Gerard had taken back the lead from KR and was putting in a sprint to get away from the rider with 67 wins to his credit. Kelly, meanwhile, had moved all the way to 3rd after a bad start at the beginning of the race. Snodgrass was still latched onto his rear wheel with Witkowski even closer in 5th. Ricky Russell still ran 6th with Baylor still holding on to 7th. Ashburn, while running in 8th, had this scary near-disastrous incident with a fan. Fortunately, though, the brakes on his gas worked and he carried on with his race. Draper ran 9th, while DeLong had lost pace and was all alone in 10th. Unfortunately, during the second lap, the race was over for Lafferty. Duval also exited the race during the second lap of action after what was believed to have been sucked sand and water mixture in one of the deep crossings out on course. As they say, everything happens in threes, as Strang was in the pits with an unconfirmed issue on lap 3. The beta mechanics worked on the machine, and although a lap down, Strang remounted his 480RR and finished the race in 11th in class. At the start of lap 4, riders stopped for the second lap in a row for a splash of fuel. The 13-mile track of deep, loamy sand was sucking extra fuel out of the machines, and 2 stops was necessary to make it to the end of the 3-hour event. The running order remained the same as Gerard and Russell led the way with Kelly charging through in 3rd. Snodgrass, meanwhile, gambled and ran out of fuel in his Husky just shy of his pits. His crew ran to him, fueled up the machine, and he was on his way. During the exchange, Witkowski came in and, with the misfortune of Snodgrass, moved up to 4th on track. Ricky Russell was holding on to 6th on his Triumph, while Baylor's Kawasaki didn't sound the healthiest as he pulled away from his pits. Draper had begun a charge of his own that would move him past Ashburn at the start of lap 4, with DeLong still in 10th. At the beginning of the final lap, and Gerard had pulled clear of KR and was looking to set sail for his first win and his first points of the year after not finishing inside the top 20 at the opening round Mudfest. Russell was all alone in 2nd as Kelly continued to charge in 3rd. Snodgrass, after his fuel issues, ran 4th with Witkowski and a hard-charging Liam Draper smelling the fumes out of the back of the Husqvarna. Ricky Russell was 7th, with Ashburn closing from behind in 8th. DeLong was 9th, while Baylor rounded out 10th. At the checkered flag, the defending national champion Johnny Gerard crossed the line to earn his first win, although he was missing his helmet visor. A hard crash on the final lap allowed Caleb Russell to close to within 8 seconds of Johnny at race's end. Kelly would come through in 3rd to round out the podium. Draper would charge from the back of the pack to finish 4th on the afternoon. Snodgrass would cross the line in 5th, but was penalized 1 position for receiving fuel outside his designated pit area. Mike Witkowski would inherit 5th after the penalty. Snodgrass ultimately finished 6th with Ricky Russell, Ashburn, DeLong, and Baylor rounding out the top 10.
You had to fight all day for that one, and you ended up in the last lap losing the helmet visor. Take us through the day.
Yeah, I had a good race going in the dogfight all day, and cartwheeled last lap, and made it really tough on myself, and kind of just got through it. It was brutal out there, but got the job done. Went from no points to 30 points. It's a good day.
Right, man.
Thanks.
Well, 2 races in, and you're back on the box after 4 years.
Yeah, I'm stoked. It's I was shooting for the podium today. I knew it was a possibility. Obviously, the goal is to try to win the race, but I needed to bounce back after Big Buck and just have a solid day. And I was able to start up front, get in the lead fast, and just rode my laps there while I was in the lead and rode into it. But Johnny was riding really well. I could tell because he was just on me, and he got around me, and I was able to pace him in the deep sand. It was like 6-7 miles. That was super deep sand. He was just killing it there, and I was like, man, I can't let him out of my sights. And then he got away from me when he pitted, and I was like, God. Then he pulled away from me so quick. So I was like, just keep digging, keep digging. It's like he's going a little too hard to hold that pace the whole time. I was like, my pace is good if I can just stay with it. And I was able to get close, but I couldn't ever bridge that gap and get him like in my sight in the woods. So he rode good. I'm happy with how I rode. I'm happy to be on the box today, but yeah, I left it all on the track for sure. I just, happy to be back up here and know that I got it still, and I can dig deep when I have to. So this was a physical one, like it always is, and yeah, I'm okay with it.
So as far as fitness-wise, you've never lacked for effort, but racing and training is definitely a lot different. How are we feeling physically after that one?
I don't want to say I'm surprised, but I was thinking, I was like, man, it's gonna be a hard day. Yesterday, I was thinking that. Got my knee drained yesterday. Took 30 cc's of fluid out of my knee yesterday so I could ride today. But yeah, I busted my butt this winter, man. Not tens of hours, hundreds of hours, spent training and just grinding. So worked hard for sure.
Get right at it. Kind of had to work for that one again, coming from behind, but putting in a solid ride. You closed up on him there about the middle part of the race, but good ride.
Yeah, thanks. I was up there, close enough to the front that first lap, and was just, learning the track, trying to save energy a bit, but yeah, kind of was behind Ricky Russell there and just was in a little bit of dust, so I just kind of got a little too close to a tree down a whoop section and smashed it, and yeah, went down pretty hard, and yeah, smashed up my right hand pretty good, and yeah, I was just kind of mad at myself a little bit after that, but I just, no excuses. I just tried to tough it out and kind of put on a charge there, maybe lap 3 or 4, and got into third and was just, digging, trying to catch up to, I think, Caleb in second there, and yeah, I got pretty close there, about halfway through that last lap, or second to last lap, maybe 15 seconds or so. Kind of stayed there for a bit, but had another pretty huge get off. Luckily was okay after that, and yeah, just kept fighting, but the gap kind of just stayed. It was what it was. Third place for me today. Needed a little more speed and a few less crashes to fight for that win, but yeah, it was solid.
Thank you everyone for watching. Round 3 of the 2025 GNCC series takes place this weekend in Talladega, Alabama for the Talladega GNCC. I'll see you guys there.